Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Community Square, a show segment Able TV, where we get to sit and discuss everything and anything as it relates to us in matters of our living and our community. And today we're going to be talking about something quite particular and peculiar to us as Nigerians in particular and Africans in general. An issue that we most likely just always bring but something that is very, very important. And today we want to discuss something like that. I want to discuss that issue, something that is very important to us, the markets and grown, in relation to how traditional institution and the modern state institution are in a conflicted marriage and unholy alliance, unable to come together for the good of the people. So we're going to discuss today in relation with the current Iyeki saga in Benin, how the political authority thought within themselves come come to Edo State, and hijack the traditional structure for political gains. So that's how we're going to be relating the matter today. We're going to be talking, and to help us, we have Mr. Abolo, a very renowned journalist and analyst, to panel this section with us. So I want to welcome everyone as you join, and I want to appreciate everyone as you join us to be patient with us and spend time with us and, engage with us in this section. Thank you. So, Mr. Obolo, over to you, sir. Damo, sir. Are you there, sir?
Yeah, hello.
Are you there, sir? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
So hold on, he's coming back. Okay, just hold on. All right. So before Tony Abolo will join, please just keep talking. Maybe you introduce the topic again.
Okay. What we see in this current issue as regards the Iyeki saga that just went down in Edo State, what we see in that regard is not something that is very particular to Edo State. It's not an Edo thing. We see across the country and across the continent at large how the current political structure try to hijack and in most places completely become, the ancient traditional legitimate structure and institutions that we are sorry, excuse me, that we are familiar with and that we are abreast with. And these people, because they have the needed resources to run society, to make society a better place as we know it, they begin to use that resources to will I say entice these traditional rulers who though have the relevance and legitimacy lack the necessary resources, to do the needful as cultural leaders that they are. And because of this lack in ability to perform, we see them needing the resources that the political class have, and the political class needing the relevance that the traditional class have, and it's leading to an unholy marriage where these two different classes come together without any clear definition of what they want to do, what they want to talk about, or rather what they want to work on, but with, will I say, the only interest of self-aggrandizement. The political leaders are going there for what they can gain, for control and power. And the cultural leaders are accepting these proposals for what they too can gain, for the influence and for the monetary remuneration. So these things combined together, begin to cause some conflicts leading to some level of imbalance and ultimately some dissatisfaction, just like it's manifested some time ago in Edo State, where it took the palace coming out to say that the cultural matters should be left out of the political arena, and statements like that in themselves are not entirely the way forward, because for us to really find the solution to matters like these, we have to see to it that there's a transparent alignment between the traditional and the modern, so that we can build a better path forward, because we cannot begin to separate politics from the traditional section, because before the colonial introduction of what we have today as segregated society of separated traditional structure and political structure, the traditional authority controlled everything. The Oba of Benin, for example, raised army in the time of war, collected taxes. These were political matters. These were state affairs. They were not really relegated as they are now to matters of cultural um, 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 activities or engagement. They were not only relegated to ceremonial events or communal settlement dispute, so communal dispute settlement. They were involved in every aspect of our lives. And that too were not perfect. It's not the case that they were the best form of societal structure or governmental organization that would have had, but it's what we had, and they worked for us for as long as they worked for us. So because of the failure and weakness of the modern society today, we find that people people are not able to build strong and reliable trust in these modern institutions, and we find that they begin to fall back to what they know. We see these people go to the traditional institutions and traditional rulers to settle their disputes. We see them go to their traditional forebearers to settle their dispute. We see when the courts, when the police is underfunded, and the courts and the judiciary system, they are failing, people go home, people take their issues to their traditional rulers, to settle for them, where they have peace of mind, where they have trust, and when they have the ability to, or rather the confidence in the ability of justice in the real sense of it. And that's something that's lacking in the modern society, where people don't have that confidence of trust and transparency in the processes of modern affairs. So for a compromise to be reached, for what occurred in Edo States. Why I keep mentioning Edo State, because it's the most recent and the most obvious. So people want to say it's an Edo matter or it's a local affair, but it's not as we think it is. It's more than an Edo matter, and it's an African affair. It's not a local affair. It's a manifestation of the power dynamics that shape our everyday life as Africans, and we have to be able to confront these things if we want to make meaningful developmental transformation in our societal processes and in our social development and advancement. So our traditional rulers and our culture and our political rulers need to come together and lay clear rules of understanding where each boundary ends and each one begins. The role of a traditional ruler and the role of a political leader in our society. That way we can organization there. So until that is achieved, until that can be achieved,
Mr. Abolo is here.
yes, all right. So until that can be achieved, we will not be able to make any meaningful progress. So I've just been told that Mr. Bolo is here now. He has joined on the show again. I would like to introduce him once again, and we would like to hear from him what he has to say as regards the topic, the throne and the market. You know, how the political class are using the traditional system against the masses for their own satisfaction. So are you there, sir?
Yes, very much. I'm hearing you.
Demo, sir. So I don't know if you got over we're talking about, sir, but for the most part, we have been analyzing how the the confliction of agreement between the traditional class and the political class is leading to some level of societal imbalance in what we are seeing today, manifesting or rather resulting in something in the nature of the last Iyeki and Iyaloja saga in Edo State, where some political personalities came to Edo State, to inaugurate an Iyaloja in Edo State, a matter of cultural affair, politicizing it to make it seem like a political matter, and causing conflict within the Edo atmosphere at that particular time. And the palace had to come out to say that they should step out from cultural matters and leave cultural affairs to the cultural authorities, to handle these things themselves. So I was saying that relegating our traditional rulers to just cultural matters is not how it's supposed to be, and it's not how it has been. It's a colonial manifestation of the separation of power between when they came into Africa, they separated power from our traditional rulers and brought in their own warrant chiefs. And these chiefs, after independence, became the political class that we now have today, in charge of these things that they left behind, the structure that they left behind, and this structure still in existence, seeking legitimacy, begin to, tap into our cultural institutions, and the one who, in some cases, what I say, pollute them. They're in charge of everything, and our heritage to guard.
Okay,
Just have
please let him talk.
our
Can you allow him to talk?
of course, ma, I will. I was giving him a clear picture of what we was talking about before he came. I don't know if he had the whole idea of what we're talking about before.
I've been hearing you. Can you hear? I've been hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah.
I'm
All right,
listening to
sir.
you.
All right, sir. So,
In fact,
all
the,
right,
the
sir.
last
So,
part, if you can hear me, the last part seemed to have brought into the fore the same confusion that we had when the colonialists came. By interfering in cultural matters, they destabilized us, and we've not recovered. And so when the modern political powers begin to do exactly what the white powers were doing, then you create the same anger, enmity, and disconnect. And that ought not to be. And therefore, the reaction within the society, call it the Edo society, is justified. And the reaction from the monarchy, the Oba, is justified. I heard you say, oh, it's not just an Edo thing, it's a national thing, it's an African thing. It's a difficult argument to make. Reason is all culture is local. All culture is particular. All culture refers to a people's ethnography. It goes back to where they began, and all their ancient history and everything plays out. And therefore, when the Benin reacted, they are reacting from the point of view of an outsider interfering in their own local ways of life and local decisions. And on top of it, you're now bringing in a new nomenclature. Instead of calling it Iyeki and Ahweki, which is referring to all the market people, you're now beginning to talk about an Iyaloja, and that is a Yoruba word. And because it connotes the attempt by the presidency to infiltrate into the marketplace by trying to gather all the market women to decide where they were going to cast their votes, because that's all the game. The game is the elections, and therefore they think they want to use it. Therefore, the reaction of the monarchy is correct because there are particular things that the Iyakis do, those who run the market. And remember that in Benin, every market is autonomous. Therefore, if you are in Kiosa or Agbado or Oba market, there are particular things you do. And some of it have some local rituals which have been denoted through the years. And you report to the Oba. That is the linkage. And how do you get somebody who comes with a political authority to begin to do things that the traditionalists do and that the local people do? That's what the problem is. So it's a local thing. It's not, and every place in Africa has its own peculiarity. Take like the Yorubas, where they were coming from to interfere with our Benin culture. They have their own. I mean, some of these things are no longer as sacred as it is in Benin, and therefore they can upturn things, do things, and then politicize them, anglicize them, call them modern civilization. But in Benin, the culture dates back to 6,000 years. It's not just today. So do you want to upturn what has been available for over 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years and call it what? Modernization? No way.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that moment of enlightenment you just dropped for us. And then I want to I want to stress on the point you made, sir. I want to say something. So I want to rest on the point you made, sir. You said, sir, that these matters, before the coming of the white men or the colonialists, our cultural leaders, controlled everything, so that these things are sacred in themselves, right? Yes. Does it affect the fact that because they were in charge of everything in the past, them now trying to ensure the necessity of that continuity, does it affect the fact that their authority, even having been severed, is not still legitimate?
Why? Why do you want to sever the linkage? Because the people are intimately linked with their natural ruler. So I don't know why you want to sever their link. You may want, for example, in terms of modernity, to reorganize things, yes. You may want to create a new structural patterns, yes, you can do that. But then it is a monarchy and the people that will decide how they want to reinstitute the relationship between the markets and the monarchy and the culture. But for one thing, I know there are all sorts of awkwardness about the modern way things are. Who helps to build the market? The local governments, maybe the state governments. So they bring their money. So it's like if I put my money, I can't talk, man, not talk put. That's a difficult thing to now argue. Therefore, if I'm going to bring my money to rebuild a market, therefore I must decide how these things can be. So maybe that is the justification. If you want to say, okay, in terms of modernity, you can bring your money, but don't tell us how we're going to use it or how we do it. That has to be agreed because you're talking about the point of contact and the point of where you dislocate. And I think that is as far as culture will permit, that you may bring your money, but don't tell us how we're going to utilize it or how we're going to manage ourselves. Because managing ourselves is a very local thing. Because let's face it, it's not like a supermarket. You see, that's a different concept. It's Oyibo who brings the supermarket kind of idea of a marketplace. We haven't started to organize our market in a supermarket style. We still go to an open place, like a bazaar that they will find maybe since we're talking about Africa. Maybe you went to Marrakesh in Morocco, or you went to somewhere in Cairo. You might find an open bazaar, or maybe you go to Saudi Arabia, you might find an open marketplace. Or there are a few open marketplaces, let's face it. In New York, there are a few open marketplaces. You'll find in London, yes, but there is a way we organize our market, and there is, in fact, it's a community. Call it, in fact, like this program is community square. The marketplace is a community square where they share things, talk about things, unionize, talk about Osusu, how we raise funds for ourselves, how we do things. So it is a community square. So do you want now, as government, to interfere in the community square? That's my question. Even if you brought the
Yeah,
money.
yeah, very correct, sir. That's right. That's right, sir. But how does it happen that you want the money but you don't want interference? How does that happen? How is there a level of satisfaction, especially for the political class, that they are bringing their money because they want something done, and that's what any politician wants. That's what any politician truly does. They bring out, they go tit for they say, you diesel, I diesel, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. That's how they do, they give you something because they want something in return. So when they want the political, cultural legitimacy that the cultural class have to offer, especially in times of election, and they go to the Iyeki, and they offer her this mobilization funds, to mobilize for them. So how do we now reconcile that non-interference? Because we just want the money, we don't want your voice. I don't think it works like that. It
I get,
sounds quite
I,
unlike that.
I get, I get your point. I don't know whom you are justifying, but let me put it this way. Truth of the matter is this: if you don't want somebody's money, you don't want his authority. Therefore, you put a stop to it. Then you must know how you want to do your thing yourself. So if you don't want their interference, then don't take their money. So you have to decide. If you want to take their money, then you want their interference. And that becomes a problem in a modern day. And you've raised something which I think we should all begin to talk about. The reason why they were able to interfere was because government was bringing the money in the name of infrastructure. If they call it, if they if they call it an infrastructure, if they call it an infrastructural development, therefore they regard that they have a right to dictate how certain things are done and perhaps use it to their own end. So therein lies the danger. That's all. If you want to keep the historical thing, yes, keep the historical thing. But if you want to keep the historical thing, then you have to use your money to do what you have to do. And and it's an important and pertinent thing that you are talking about, which is that even currently the upper market, which is supposed to be, if you like, the premier market in Benin, it had this is the second time fire gutted it, and the government is intervening. The local government is intervening, and if they are going to intervene, which they are doing massively, because it's a lot of contract. They want to modernize the market to make it more modern, with water hydrants, with conveniences, maybe air conditioned or something like that. So if they want to do that, that will mean that the government is more and more bringing itself to guide and guard the markets. And if you don't want the massive investment that the government is doing, then this is the time to talk. That you may bring your money, but please, this is where it stops. And maybe is there so much to demand that the government cannot stay back? I don't see why the government cannot stay back, especially when it becomes a cultural decision of how you organize yourself. It's like we talk about politics. After all, they say it's all politics is local, which means all cultural things are very local. So yes, the state government may do what they want to do. Maybe the federal government wants to intervene, but whatever it is, do not interfere to how they organize it in the day-to-day nitty-gritty, because they know themselves. They are a community by themselves. They know how they assist each other in different ways. They know how even to get the materials. Does the government interfere or decide how to get the items itself? No. They organize where it's coming from, where it's coming, say, like in Benin, you're taking it from the middle belt, you're taking it from Kano, you're taking it from Lokoja, you're taking it from Lagos, or you're taking it from Onitsha. Nobody tells you where you're going to bring it. Therefore, the market people know how they organize the commodities they gather. They know how, because of transport and all of that, how they fix the prices. But in terms of the convenient place where everybody gathers, the government may do it by way of providing the infrastructure of the building, the conveniences, and which they do and they've always done. But it's a new thing if, like this politics that interfered with culture raises an issue, then it means the people themselves must tell themselves that they no longer will want the money interference. Because after all, they do make enough money, let's face it. And they can, on their own, raise funds if they want to. Because sometimes you should be able to tell yourself how you relate with government and tell government not to interfere in your local matter. And if you don't want them to interfere, then don't touch their money.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, that was amazing. Very correct, sir. Very correct. I want to point out something you said where you were very particular about if you don't want their interference, don't take their money. I feel like that would I say indiscipline to adhere to that particular, will I say slogan or this we continue to affect societal processes because if you look at it like this, we have two parallel systems operating within our society where we have the political class, a parallel system of the cultural class, doing the exact same thing. Before the coming of the governor of Edo State, the Oba of Benin was in charge of everything. Before there was the commissioner of police, the Oba of Benin had chiefs and generals in charge of these things. Before there was the major general of any particular in the modern society as we have it, the Benin society had these things. It was the coming of the Europeans, that fragmented this system. So I'm talking about. So we now have two parallel society, rather two parallel system in our society now. So for them to for them to really work together, because there's necessity for them to come together to work together. Because if our political class continue to conflict with our cultural class, we'll continue to have issues, and these issues will continue to result in instability that will not allow for some level of advancements, because we have not made progress thus far, because we don't see these things as real matters. We see these things and we call them local matters, and we just blow them by the side. These are the real frontline issues. These are the real things that will determine how our life is. If the political class can come together and work with the cultural class, I feel like the society will be a better place. If the cultural class understand that they are not supposed to be working with the political class for any financial benefits, and the political class understand that they're not supposed to be working with the cultural class for any political gain, only for the people's interest. I feel like the marriage will begin to work out, because right now we are having a very messy, complicated, even will I say situationship, because it's not now even a wonderful relationship. It's a matter of situation. The situation we find ourselves, but yet we're not making the most of it. We're just making this messy and mashy. So I feel if we can come together and look for a way to transparent the whole process, everything can work smoothly, sir. So I want to in that regard ask you, to give some level of analysis to the thought of how the political class and the cultural class can come together and synergize for a proper societal processor.
Well, the question has to be taken on a piecemeal basis. Piecemeal in the sense that um, if it's in the Yoruba area of the country, or if it's the northern part of the country or in the eastern part of the country, things are organized very, very differently. The relationship between the political class and the cultural class is determined differently. By and large, when it comes to, say, the North, they are jealous about their cultural tendencies. In the Yoruba land, there is a lot of, touch of modernization, and therefore they will find a way that is more liberal in organizing themselves, and they know what they do. But then again, they have so liberalized it that there's a commercial undertone. Whoever is a Yaloja has daily collection. You see it? How do you do nothing, but you are supposed to have like a suzerainty over markets, collecting people's money on a daily basis? Does that make sense? You didn't invest in their activities, in their goods, in their troubles. You didn't have any. You don't have any investment, but yet you collect money. So you can imagine if you're collecting money on a daily basis, and that's what was going to creep in into Edo State. That kind of daily collection, and of course, people will resist it. We may think very differently about it. In the north is different. In the east, where they are more mercantilist in the approach to doing things, of course, the issue never arises about a meet between culture and politics or traditional rulers. In Lagos, it is an Ibadan. There's a different ball game. These are very Yoruba places, Abiyokuta. The ways they organize is very different. So each region of the country, each area of the country has its own peculiarities. But it is the peculiarity of Benin that has made this issue come to the front burner. But like as I said, in all societies, things have to be reconfigured. And therefore, you can say to yourself, as the years go by, what do we do? As the years go by, how do we organize? After all, you can still have a big, what is now our market, develop in such a modern way that is both a mix of traditional market style and supermarket style. That is easily possible. But then that is when you now think more deeply in terms of reorganizing. But who makes the fund available? Who makes that organizational decision? Is it for the Oba? Is it for the Iyekis? Who takes that decision? That will be taken at a point in time. Otherwise, you don't expect us to keep going to the market, for example, now. They leave things on the ground of the market. They leave meat exposed, and therefore flies and so on. So there are hygienic issues or health issues. There's other issues, order in terms of ORDER. You have to get an order in these matters. So when you now begin to look at the order, these things will go. It may take some bit of new decisions that have to be taken as the years go by.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
I really appreciate that, sir. I really appreciate that. It's not enough for this thing, it's a matter of accusations over and over again,